you right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get any...
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
What's up, everybody? TGIF to everybody out there. We are coast to coast. I am your host, Pags. My co-host, Bo, is next to me. Next to him, it will kind of look like it was Russell Wilson, but it's not really Russell Wilson. It will be, McLovin
Gino.
here shortly. And was it Gino?
It was Gino, yeah.
I couldn't tell. Can't tell the difference when the helmet's on.
No, it's because I got Hawk Talk right after this, so was working on some stuff.
Understood. Anyways, happy Friday to everybody. It might be a holiday where you're at, or at least your kids have the holiday off because, there is no school today. So at least for around here, there's no school. Do you guys have school today? Your kids
I have no
school?
idea. I don't have kids.
Oh, that's lucky you. Congratulations. I get to travel whenever I want to because I don't have children. Awesome.
That's right.
Well, everybody else who does have kids, likely they are having a holiday day where the kids are at home. So, Chris, to be honest, I haven't heard any updates, and I haven't really been listening either. I just, after that was done, we'll get all those updates. I'll update everybody on Monday for that type of stuff. If you can probably watch CNN, they're talking about it there or what have you. But we were going to try to keep it on a positive note today. We are having a positive Friday day. A little bit later, we're actually going to have a race car driver who drives in the Arco series coming on with us. His name is Art Seeger, and he has a team ASR. He'll be able to explain all of that later and then probably talk to you, Bo, because I'm going to ask stupid questions like about drafting and stuff like that. I just don't know, but he's actually going to be really good to talk to. And you guys would probably have really interesting conversation on what it takes. Cause he's not full, like high price funded.
Yeah.
And
neither was I. So he's made it further than I did.
Yeah, I mean, he's like I said, when I called him today, the first thing that he says was, I wasn't able to get anything for Daytona. I says, well, interestingly enough, I'm calling to, get you to come on to my show to talk about Daytona because, you're going to know a lot more than I am. So, but he is somebody who has raced at Daytona.
Oh, that's cool.
So there's going to be definitely some good stories to hear from that, as long as Jay can keep his mouth shut for a few minutes and let the guy talk. That'll be interesting.
Link?
Huh?
Did you send him the wrong link? Yesterday's link?
Yeah, I doubt that. So I think that he'll be here. I kind of feel like it'll be interesting. It'll give him a good thing because let me tell you, Art knows how to talk as well. Art is definitely into Art.
All right.
So, but anyways, let's get to the stories of the day, even though there's not many. Let's go ahead and start with the one that you had mentioned, because I didn't even look at that one.
Yeah, so Caitlin Clark sets the all-time scoring record for women in NCAA basketball. And, of course, she is not that far behind setting the all-time NCAA record, just period, men's and women's. I'm not exactly sure how far back she is. I want to say it's roughly about 120 points, something like that. But, she set the women's record with a 49-point day. So, I mean, that's something that could fall relatively soon.
Gotcha. Well, like I said, you said she hit for 49 points, and they're talking about 120 for the all-time record and such. Do they count when it gets into March Madness and stuff like that? I guess they count every game that you play
I feel like
As
they'd
long
have
as
to,
it,
right?
that's what I would think so too. Like it's just that's the all-time score, and she plays for Iowa,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yep.
so see, look at me, knowing a little bit. I do know a little bit. Uh, and when I think of women's basketball, there are a few names that actually come to mind specifically,
Sure.
and it's and they mostly deal with coaches.
Okay.
Obviously Pat Summitt was an amazing coach for a long, long time. And I think of Gino Barberi. Is that his name?
That I don't know.
He's the coach of Connecticut right
Okay.
now. He's the one that seems to win all the time now too. And then I think of the woman with LSU. I couldn't even tell you her name, but she
Oh yeah.
wears flamboyant
Yep.
stuff, you know, and she plays in Iowa. So it's got to be kind of fairly interesting because I obviously with her playing on that team, she has elevated that team to legendary status in comparison because
No
most of
doubt.
the times you see the same teams when like it's always Connecticut. It was always uh was it I guess it wasn't Georgia. It was some other but I like Connecticut's the team that always comes to mind. The female Huskies are always winning the national championship. Now
Yep.
LSU has been in that mix. I remember the girl last year pointing to the ring and
Yep.
kind of taunting her the entire game. Which was interesting to me because you don't really see women doing that. So I kind of dug that. I was like, all right, that's awesome. You know what I mean? You're
Well,
taunting a
and
little.
it was funny because Caitlin Clark did that. That like I think the series or the game before, a few games before, something like that. So it was kind of a coming back at her type of thing.
Got you.
So, I mean, I wasn't mad at it.
No, it's like I mean I think that there was a lot of stuff that came out about that because she was doing some trash talking, and
Yep.
it's like what like and I was thinking like what women can't trash talk each other
Right.
like that's not how I want to do that. It's like I reached out I was reached out to the other day by as funny as it said not to switch subjects but
Yeah.
uh, the Philadelphia Phantoms, which
Okay.
is it's the WNFC. So it's professional, fully padded football.
Okay.
And I said, listen, I said, get me a jersey. I'd love to go attend a practice and actually take part in the practice. As best as I can, obviously. I'm 50 years old. These
Yeah.
girls are going to kick my ass. But I want them
100%.
to kick my ass. I want them to
Yeah.
kick my ass a little bit. You know what I mean? It's like, let me go through a practice with you guys. Let me do some of the things that you guys do. Let's show what actually happens in your practice in comparison to like the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm
Sure.
sure the Philadelphia Eagles are a lot more regimented, got a lot more things, but these women all got it together too. And
Sure.
I
And
think
they're athletes. There's no joke.
oh yeah, there's no doubt about that. Like I feel like I'm going to get my ass kicked if I go do that, but I'm willing to do
100%.
that because listen. These are athletes, and I want to feel what it's like. You know what I mean? And if that means I get a couple bruises and bumps along the way, maybe a broken collarbone, that's so be it.
Uh, all for you guys watching. Broken bones. Here we go.
Well, I mean, can you imagine some of the footage that would come from that?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I would definitely have my camera crew come with me because that would be it. It would be funny to watch. It would be funny to watch. Like I feel like jumping in when I went and jumped in the pool of water, that was
Yeah.
funny to watch. If you were there watching, not me jumping in, but me coming out, I got to
Yeah.
imagine that like that. I wish there was a good video of that because
Oh, I bet.
I remember coming up out of that water. I'm like, oh, like it was like I ain't happy about this even a little bit. And also makeup running down my face,
Yep.
my mohawk all messed up. It was, you know, so and Joe, you know what? With WWF wrestlers, I mean, again, listen, I'm not trying to get myself killed. I have a friend that does this. I probably could do a little bit of this. I mean, I am pretty spry, but it only takes one thing to happen to all of a sudden not feel so spry anymore.
Yep.
So it be
Oh, Eagles
I
help.
a couple of years ago.
He's not saying actually do WWF. He's saying, would you wear Eagles belt at a game like a WWF championship belt?
Oh, I do have some pictures. Thank you. I missed that first one. So there we go. That's what he's kind of talking about.
Yeah.
Uh, I have uh, I have a couple of friends that have those belts. I personally would not wear it to a game because it's too much for me to manage. It's already a pain to do that. Like if I'm wearing shoulder pads, I don't want to have a belt over there too and stuff like that. So, uh, but
I mean, it seems
I
like
mean,
good.
if I'm not wearing the shoulder pads or like the football gear, I would wear that around. I wouldn't mind. Just like I am the people's champ. I used to do that all the time to FedEx. FedEx I see all the time, and every time I do it, and he sees me with face paint, I give him the people's champ symbol and stuff like that, and do my thing. But anyways, back to college basketball. So obviously she is going to do it because they have what, like another 8 games left to go before even March Madness, I think.
Exactly. Yeah, I can't
So
imagine she doesn't reset the record at this point. And then for the women's record, I mean, every point she scores from here is just extending it.
right, yeah, it's just going to make it tough for anybody else, whoever the next one's going to be.
Yeah, no, exactly. And from what I was reading, she only needed 8 points going into that game that she scored 49 in. So
Right. Well, that's what I thought because I know that I watched it on ESPN and it said that she could have possibly done it in 2 games, but I guess she didn't because
yeah,
that was like
came
over
up
a
just
week
short.
ago.
Yeah,
So and that's why she did it in 3 games and you know crushed it
and crush it.
by
Exactly.
41 points, additional 41 points. Um, but that amazing for her. That's awesome, and it definitely is going to set the bar a little bit higher for anybody else going there. And you don't have to go to Connecticut or LSU to be able to set this. Somebody is going to be able to do it on their own because really that's what's happened there. She's doing it on her own.
Yeah, yeah.
For the
I
most
mean,
part, if she's scoring 49.
amazingly, she still had double-digit assists in that game. So
That's
I mean,
even better.
she's jacking those shots up and still able to dish it out enough to, almost have
So
a
let's say she counted for about 50 points, and if she's giving even 10, that's counting for another 20 points. So
Yeah,
now she's got 79 or 69 points just in that alone.
yep.
You know what I mean? So, I got to imagine that her team only scored at most 90. What was the score of the game?
Let's see. I think they actually scored more than that. 106 to 89.
Wow, I mean they're scoring over 800 points, and the opposing team's keeping up with them. So
Yeah.
it sounds like there was no defense at
Well,
all.
and she didn't play all the minutes. 37 minutes, 49 points, 13 assists, 5 rebounds, and 9 of those were 3-pointers. So I mean, she's jacking threes up too.
Dang. So it's awesome. So
Yeah.
there we go.
Basically, what I'm reading is she would kick my ass at basketball.
Yeah, that wouldn't even be, that's not even a second thought for me. I mean, I stink at basketball. Like I said, well, actually, the only thing I'd be able to do is play defense. It's just a matter of keeping up with her and not giving her as many shots. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, don't expect me to score.
That's right.
I'm
Like,
just going to
how
be
close
playing
are we calling
defense.
fouls?
I get a point every time you miss it.
I like it. I like it.
That would be the way that works. Anyways, so all right, awesome, good for that. Speaking of women's sports, and this is probably a great segue into this. Uh, oh yeah, no doubt in our mind, no doubt.
Yeah,
She could
100%
probably me and him together
would still lose.
against her. She'd
100%.
still kick our asses. I am
Honestly,
fully
probably all 3 of us.
yeah, 3-on-1, and she'd still win. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah.
No doubt in my mind. But speaking on women's sports, and it was something that I brought up a little bit earlier, and we're going to kind of talk about this moving forward here as we, are just taking stuff. Um, I saw. Joe, I see what you're saying. I'm not sure if Mike is on one of the pages that he's not able. I'm not able to see his messages or whatever. I don't see anything from a Mike, but I'm going to send over my email address uh, in the chat, and if you guys see it, you can have him email me. I'll bring him on the show. Would love to talk to MMA fighters. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
sure.
do I do some stuff with the Art of War around here, which is a local MMA fighting. I guess they go to different spots and they do fighting and such like that. So, uh, would love to have him come on and talk to us. I'm not seeing any of his messages if he's actually writing anything out. But going back to what I was saying, the WNHL, or I don't know that that's what it's really called. I think it's something else. Let me just pull it up because it was something very interesting to bring up and talk about in the first place. There it is. It is in the PWHL, the Professional Women's Hockey League. They have a rule that was enforced for the very first time in this past week. They have what's called in hockey. You can go shorthanded. You can be a man down and be shorthanded, and they have for the first time the jailbreak rule was in effect. So, if, for instance, if you score a shorthanded goal, that you break your player with a 2-minute penalty
Penalty. Yeah,
out of the
so they could have
box.
they could have a short penalty box, really. They
Correct.
could be getting a 2-minute penalty and be out of there in 20 seconds or so.
20, 30 seconds if you're sending it down like that. So,
Yeah,
uh, right now, the Flyers, for instance, this year are first in the league on shorthanded goals. They scored their 12th shorthanded goal the other day. They may have been tied since then, but they took the lead at that point. So it made me think that if the NHL did that, that would be a really fun rule to have. And maybe instead of throwing the puck down the ice, they try to break somebody out and try to get the goal rather than try to stay on offense because ultimately, if you score the goal, you would get your guy out of the penalty box. That being said, it made me think of what other cool rules could we add to any sport that would be a cool rule to actually enforce, whether it be like so. I I like a little bit of the being able to start running forward, like they do in the Arena League, where the defense isn't allowed to move. Once you
yeah,
set, you're set in place, and then you can run forward because it's meant to score a lot of points.
sure.
That's what the purpose is of this. In the NFL, I kind of like the idea of being able to run forward. However, you would have to hike the ball before he got to the line of scrimmage. You couldn't have that person.
Yes, of
It's
course.
got to be within. It's got to be within the box of the line of scrimmage. So, for
Yeah,
instance, you got to be. You can't be touching the butt per se on the imaginary line of the butt of the
yeah,
furthest person back on the line.
sure.
But I like the idea of being able to go forward where somebody could do a weirdo, you know, way, I guess like a reverse style uh motion and start running forward to
Yeah,
be
I
able to
mean
make that occur.
that would definitely increase the scores in the NFL, right? I mean, if that's really what you're trying to do, because that'll make defense even harder to play.
So yeah, all right. Well, I appreciate that, Joe. Listen, I'll make sure send me a message and I'll send you my email and such like that, and we can kind of coordinate that way. Because sometimes I don't get all the messages here. I actually have a thing that tells me I don't get the messages, and I know we're trying to have a conversation. I'm not really doing real well with it, but any uh,
Hey, it's
any
Friday.
other
There's bound to be struggles.
exactly. What other like any other type of rules for any sport that you could think of that would be good to enforce that would make things kind of fun?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd like them to go back to the running start on kickoffs. I get that they're claiming, injuries and whatever, but I would like them to go back to that, because I don't like them removing special teams from the game, essentially, right? Like you have Devin Hester getting into the Hall of Fame, and no one's ever going to match it because they basically make special teams irrelevant now. So I'd like to maybe repeal some of those. It's not necessarily a new rule, just like let's reinstate some of the ones that increase competition. Because I mean, when you think back to, when you were a kid watching football, special teams was a huge piece of the game, right? Like
Right.
guys like Hester and Leon Washington. I mean, guys like that could absolutely score anytime they touch the ball. So, yeah, I mean, I'd like to see something like that. I don't know if there's new wrinkles I necessarily need to see. They change so many rules all the time anyway. You know, maybe just bring back some of the ones that made the game more fun to watch.
I could agree to some extent. The Eagles are the worst at this too. They put their arms out. The ball doesn't even make it to the end zone. And they put
Yep.
their arms out, and that's it. They just take it over the 25. That
Yep.
means they're being coached to do that.
Yeah, of course.
So ultimately, it used to be that if it wasn't in the end zone, it was a live ball.
Yep.
So how do you do that? Like, how is it? Just say,
Or if you don't indicate. If you don't indicate, it's still a live ball. So, I mean,
how about I like you either call it, listen, let's take it out.
Yep.
Don't bother kicking off. Don't even bother. We're just going to take it on the 25. We call touchback before the kick.
no, you can't do that though, because if it falls off the tee wrong and it goes out of bounds, then you get it at the 40. So you still want them to go through the motion.
Yeah, but how often does that happen anymore?
A couple times a year. Like it's not a lot.
Maybe. So I kind of look like it's if you're trying to take away the kickoff, because ultimately you still want to give them the opportunity to maybe do an onside kick. That's
Sure.
the purpose of that, having that kickoff. But if you're not even going to take it out, like if I wanted to kick it short, that's what I'm saying. Realistically, on an onside kick, all they'd have to do is do this, and they get it at the 25-yard line. They don't even have to do it.
So I don't think that's true. I don't think that's
really
true.
That's the rule.
I believe. Well, no, because it wouldn't be a fair. Well, no, I guess it's still not a fair catch at that point because it still hit the ground to roll through. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think that would work, but I mean, I guess I haven't read the letter of the law there.
I mean, if I was a coach, and they want to do an onside kick, I'd be right next to the referee. The moment the kick goes, just go like this. They'd have to blow it dead and start at the 25-yard line. That's how that would work.
I guess if you're trying to get rid of things like the onside kick, which essentially the non-running start basically does, right? Like it went from a low percentage play to an almost not possible. So then they should go to that rule that they started to talk about, where if you, instead of an onside kick, you basically get the ball. It's I think it was like 4th and 15 on your 20, right?
Right.
That essentially is the onside kick. And if you get it, you go on from that spot. And if you don't, then they get the ball there, right? Which obviously, if you don't get it, that's, you basically are conceding points at that point. But by the time you're doing an onside kick, you have to have it, right? There's no, you would get rid of the Pat McAfee, like, just random onside kick to himself stuff. Like obviously none of that'll happen. But nobody's done that in years anyway.
Because they keep everybody up now because nobody has to move.
Yep.
And you just have one guy in the far back because ultimately it is what it is. And everybody's still going to run past you anyways. You're not chip locked. That's why nobody can break one away on these kicks anymore. You only see punt returns for touchdowns anymore.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I agree with that. I kind of like it, but I'm just saying that rule could backfire on somebody.
Oh, no doubt.
Absolutely.
No doubt. I mean,
I'm waiting
like,
for waiting for that rule to backfire.
Yeah. No,
Because ultimately, and that's all you'd have to do. I swear, like if I was the coach, I'd say, okay, we're just
I'm
going
gonna
to
have to
call it.
read up
We're going
on
to call
that.
it right there. That what distinguishes whether you're able to do that on a kickoff, because they haven't done that, and that rule is actually, nobody thinks about it in that way. But that's all you'd have to do. Be a way of saying, you know what, we're not even touching it because we got the. You're just going out there with your arms out like this, and they blow it dead right then and there.
Yeah, I wonder if the ball has to go inside the 25, because like you can fair catch it now, and it comes out to the 25. So,
Right. That's what I'm
so
talking
maybe,
about. Like you
yeah.
don't
So
even have to
I
catch
wonder.
it, is what I'm getting at. You
Well, no. But I mean, I wonder if the ball has to travel within the 25. So I'll have to read up on that because I'm actually not entirely sure. Never really thought about it.
got you. So well, and that's. I think that is really the rule. So that's why it's going to be a little bit tough to determine one way or another if it is the rule or not. But I think that you could possibly cheat that. I also like the idea of 4 point spots in basketball, putting up a 4 pointer.
Yeah, going
Yeah,
logo shot.
uh, not like a logo, like half part corner, like the half court corner, like both the corner areas on the around the half. You could kind
Okay,
of put it in that area,
put like
and
a
then
little
the
arc
logo.
in there.
Yeah, like the logo as well. So almost look at it as like just a straight line going from the logo, or really the
Okay,
corners to, you know I don't know, but it's far enough away where there's a 4 point play.
yeah.
I can't
I
imagine
mean,
there's going to be a lot of 4 point shots. You're not trying to do all of that.
wow, we got novels going over here.
It is. That's a copy and paste if I ever saw one.
Right?
There we go. There we go. He using a prescribed medication without the prescription. Sounds like somebody was giving him some Adderall.
Right.
That or Percocets,
I
one or
mean,
the other.
does his 2 game suspension matter? He's not playing anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
It's
I'm
like,
not
oh, you're
a
not
as
on the
big.
bench, you're on your couch.
Yeah, you can't start at the goal line. That doesn't work. So, yeah, that'd be great. Like, oh yeah, you could start at the like if it was arena and it was only a 55-yard field, you could
Sure.
start at the 5.
Yeah.
That makes more sense. But
uh,
again,
Re-
only the best. It was the best here within our group here.
Wit bringing heat. I like it.
Uh, a baseball, like I think about baseball and I think about how they stopped the shift, and I wasn't a fan of that. I actually felt that if you're going to put a clock on the batter, then that clock works the same way on somebody getting back and forth from each other. So they should be able to do the shift if they want to. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. Because, I mean, if you want to leave a section of the field vulnerable, good on you. And if you're a batter, learn to hit the other way.
exactly. So, that's but I always hear the opposite side of that all the time, that they're saying, well, uh, they don't teach that anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not my fault. These are professionals. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's supposed to be what it's supposed to be. So I don't know. I didn't mind the shift. I don't know if like I said, I'm trying to figure out like what rules could change in baseball in general to make
So
things.
the one rule I like that they got, that they put in, was the limitation of the amount of times you can check a runner. Because now we're seeing stolen bases again, which is something that
Yes.
kind of largely had gone away. So I like seeing that rule put in. the pitch clock, I mean, I don't know. I don't really care either way. It's not like you're trimming that much time off a game doing it. I mean, some of those pitchers did have a ridiculous amount of time between pitches. So, I mean, like in a way, I get the idea behind it, but that one I didn't care that much about. But the limiting the amount of times you can check a runner, I like that a lot because, you know, when you grew up watching guys like Ricky Henderson who stole every base, you know, if he made it to first, you're like, okay, he's getting one more for free.
Yeah, he's definitely getting second and maybe third.
Exactly. So I'm liking seeing that element of baseball come back.
Yeah, I feel like the catchers have gotten really soft in the process. That's why I'm happy that we have Real Muto here in Philadelphia because he's actually, I mean, he's a pitcher behind the plate. That's what he is.
Yeah.
He can throw that ball 98 miles an hour down. You know,
Yep.
so if he actually had any ability to command that ball on a small level, it would be awesome. You know what I mean? He'd be a pitcher, but in the meantime, it's.
Well, I mean, you need that guy behind the plate to gun
I,
someone down.
I absolutely disagree, Brad. You know, I initially thought that, but I disagree with that. I feel that this clock actually helped me only have to be in the ballpark for 3 hours and
Yes.
sometimes 3.5 hours rather than 5 and 6 hours. And I tell you, for somebody who goes to a lot of baseball games and spends a lot of time at the ballpark, I initially was not happy about it and thought that 15 seconds or 12 seconds was too quick, you know. But I thought maybe it should increase to 3 more seconds, be like 18 and 15 or something like that.
Yep.
But once I got used to that, I was happy about it. I thought, you know, the Phillies didn't get used to it right away. It was something that they resisted for a minute, but it helped. It helped tremendously in terms of getting through these games a little bit faster, which was nice.
Well, and that's kind of the thing, right? Like I like it for the pitchers that have those ridiculous in between pitch type things. But yeah, I mean, it's like for the most part, most pitchers kind of did it. You know, we're kind of close to that anyway. But yeah, I mean, the ones that had the really extended or they'd stand there forever, it's like, okay, I don't mind the pitch count for that, which is why I was like, you know, I could take it or leave it. But yeah, for the ones that really take forever on the mound, I'm not a huge fan.
Gotcha. So I mean, and then I'm trying to think if there was anything else that kind of makes the, you know, not I don't. There's nothing in baseball that I could think of. Every rule that, you know, I feel like most of the rules that they make in baseball, I would absolutely get rid of. I liked extra inning games, and I like for them to go longer.
I don't like the start on second thing.
Yeah, no, that's got to go. That's got to go. I'm happy that it disappears for the playoffs,
right?
but
yeah, no, that's a rule I don't like. You know, play small ball, right? Simple as that. Like if you want to win the game, it goes to extra innings. Play small ball, get the win. Like, you know.
Well, the Phillies have no ability to do that whatsoever. None at all. None at all.
Yeah.
You ask any, I mean, Jose Reyes, they were talking about it. They mentioned it on Sports Talk Radio when I was in the car an hour ago, how one of the things that came from there was that Jose Reyes was practicing bunting.
Oh,
Thank God. Thank God somebody's practicing it because our team couldn't bunt worth a lick. Not even a little bit. You know, it's like, and it sounds so ridiculous that, to maybe bunt somebody over, but I mean, that is a lost art. And I tell you, if you knew how to bunt well, you could get on first base every time. Every time.
Especially if you
Because
have some speed.
third baseman, if you have a little bit of speed, it helps. But no speed is even required anymore because third basemen are not really prepared for that. They're all the way back most of the time. Anyways, same thing with the shortstop. You lay that pitch down the right way. Most of the time, pitchers, you got to lay it down in the opposite hand that the pitchers are so that they have to go and make the awkward movement to get to it. But ultimately, you could probably get on first. If you mastered that, you would be able to do that until the third baseman started to creep up on you. And then you start hitting the ball that way.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
you toss that little blooper.
that could occur that it's a lot harder to kind of deal with in the process. But I mean, I know what did we watch? That one guy, uh, and Carpenter. I guess it was Carpenter who bunted a triple. He bunted a triple because of the shift and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if no one's home,
Right. You got all right. We got the shift. You finally get there. You get the second, but nobody's covering third, so he was able to run all the way to third. So because it took forever to get the ball because there was nobody there,
yep.
and then there was nobody covering because the closest person to the ball was the third baseman.
Yeah. Yeah.
So basketball, like I said, other than the 4 point, I would rather there start to become a third technical.
Yeah. I
Switch
don't
it
like
to a
seeing
three
guys get,
strike, you're out.
yeah. I don't like seeing guys get punted, especially because the refs have become so soft about everything. Like you can't even talk to them now and you get a tech. And then if you're like,
That
wait,
happened the
what?
other day with Devin Booker in the first quarter.
Yeah,
First quarter, Devin Booker gets
exactly.
booted.
Well, I mean, because you get one, because you go up and you're talking to him, you're like, hey, why was that a foul or whatever? And they're immediately like, pop, right? And you're just like, wait, what? And as soon as you do that, they're like, and I mean, come on. Right? Nobody's going there to see the star get booted in the first quarter. Like, nobody's paying tickets for that. That's like the load management thing, right? Like, nobody's going there to see your bench players get smoked by someone else's starting lineup. Like, it's not why you buy tickets.
Right.
I mean, you turn the game off at home if that's what you see going on.
Right. And it's like, but yes, and I agree. Some of the players are getting soft too. It's just like
Yes.
flopping is a real thing.
Man.
Lots of
There's a rule
flopping.
for
You know what I
flopping
mean?
now. The fact that there's a rule for flopping now is let you know the state of the NBA.
I mean, they've been flopping all their lives in soccer. It's like
That's why I
that's
don't
why
watch
they have
soccer.
them. That's why they have the magic spray. They spray you with a little bit of hairspray over there, and all of a sudden, voila! Here we are, back up again. So
Yeah,
um,
no, it's why I don't watch soccer. Like, there's a couple of things that kill soccer for me. One, the flopping is rough. Like, I'll watch women's soccer over men's soccer if I am going to watch it, because those ladies will go out and beat each other up. Like,
right.
they'll be out there bleeding, still playing. You will brush a guy in men's soccer and they're rolling around on the ground for 5 minutes. It's crazy to me. And then,
Especially when they have the lead.
yeah, exactly. So,
That's a
and
real
then,
thing.
they also the ties. I hate ending in ties. Ties make me mad. I'm a little too competitive. I'd rather lose than tie, right? Like, I would rather there be a winner in the game. So, and I get that there's a point program for, how goals work and everything. Like, I understand. I just don't enjoy it. So I guess one rule I would change for the NFL is to go back to allowing double overtime in regular season games. Because again, I don't like ties. Doesn't happen very often, but all the same, I like to see someone actually get the dub there.
So only because they actually now have that field goal rule where if you kick a field goal, touchdown ends it in regular season, field goal allows the other team to get it. Obviously, you may only get it with 2 minutes left because even the longest of drives goes about 8 minutes. So you could get it with 2 minutes and 15 seconds left, and then you're going to have to go as far as you can and kick the field goal with no time left. You can wind up with a tie there because they're only playing for 10 minutes in that quarter. Would you just do it the 2-point conversion route?
What do you mean?
Is that how you would do that? How you would do the second overtime, where it's just, hey, you're starting at the 2, and it's you got to get in, one play to get in, that's it, and then the other team goes and starts at the 2, one play to get in, one play to get in, one play to get in.
Oh, like college style. No, I think I would still. I think I'd just let them play it out as if you were playing a half of football.
Could still end in a tie, though.
Hypothetically, but the odds are low.
Yeah, actually, they're not so low because if you tied in the half of the full game, anyways, it's actually likely you're not if you're playing a full half of football. The reason why
No,
they're
no,
not
no.
doing that is because you could play.
It would still be a sudden death type of thing, right? Like they're not going to get rid of their chance for the other team to get the ball, but from there, say next point scores, right? So you still end up with that sudden death element. I mean, I was fine with it being sudden death to begin with, because okay, you got the ball first, so make your defense do something, right? Like get the stop. Like I didn't care about having a sudden death in football. I was just like, okay, well, yeah, make your defense go get a stop. I mean, because if you get the ball from there, hey, your point scores. So, a lot of people didn't like it. They wanted to see both teams get the ball, and I know everything's kind of geared towards the offense to put up points, and I get all of that. At the same time, as a defensive player, just go out there and play defense, win the game.
I hear you, but I don't know. I don't necessarily subscribe to that magazine because you're relying on a coin flip to determine the outcome, which is what happened a lot of the time before
Sure,
they even did the field goal situation. Like all you had to do was get in the field goal range, and that was the end of it. And
sure,
then people would actually play for field goal range. You're just like,
of
okay,
course.
well now you have kickers that can kick the ball 60 yards. So all you got to do is get to your side of the 50, the other side of the 50-yard line, and there's a good chance that he's going to make the field goal to win the game.
It's entirely possible, and in a way, you're still playing with a coin flip, because if you were playing in the Super Bowl, right? You get a field goal, they get, or a touchdown, right? Doesn't even matter anymore. So say you both get a touchdown. Well, if you had the ball first because you won the coin flip, obviously defense isn't performing, so you still get to do that. You get that third possession because you both scored, and you play for field goal range. If you get more than that, great. But if you don't, doesn't matter. And you end up with a guy like Justin Tucker that can hit from 65. And yeah, so I mean, you're kicking from the logo, and it doesn't matter. But I mean, all it did was add 2 possessions in overtime. But at the same time, whoever won the coin flip would, in theory, in that scenario, get the ball last.
Well, we're learning that now through all different types of social media because that video that came out saying that, hey, we want them to have the ball. We want them to have the ball. And them saying we want the ball.
Yeah.
So,
well, they were
it
confident they'd get a touchdown, right? And potentially stop. And honestly, they almost stopped him anyway, right? If it wasn't for a holding call, they would have went 3 and out anyway. So,
right, right, which is a different scenario. But ultimately,
yes.
once you score, like it says, once you score that point, you immediately want to get the ball last. So you're getting 3 points in. Oh, I'm definitely getting the ball. Even if they scored a touchdown, had they scored a touchdown, then it's sudden death.
Yep.
It's I don't know. It's fine. I find it odd. I kind of like how college does it a little better.
Okay.
Hey, you're going to start at the 40 and work your way down. Well, in college they start at the 35. So
Yep.
you hear it's like you could start at the 50 or at the 40
Sure.
and work your way down. And you can't use a kicker. You're not kicking field goals. Let's just take that out of the game. So
Well, you'd have to. You'd have to take that out, because otherwise you could be blasting kicks from 35 all day.
right.
I mean, I can
just
hit
make it.
35.
I don't know. If you think you can kick a 45-yard field goal, is what you're saying?
I have. I don't think I could today. I could probably kick a 35-yarder today. So if you were able to get 10 yards, right, I could probably still hit from 35.
Okay. I mean, I know when I went to the Pro Bowl, and they
Sure.
allow you, they let you kick a 25-yard field goal,
Yep.
and I was able to kick that.
Yep.
And actually, it looked like I would have had some to spare. Of course, if you put me in the Gronk spot, you know what I mean, where
I missed that one probably.
it's like, hey, I'm gonna give this a shot here and try to kick. Actually, and he missed it wide. He didn't miss it short.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
actually,
No, he had enough leg for it. Yeah.
yeah, it was wide because he doesn't know how to kick a ball well enough. So,
Well, and that's honestly where I would have been too. Like, I would have had the length. I probably wouldn't have had the control because, well, I wasn't a kicker.
Right. But I kind of like rather the 2-point conversion. I think that's fast.
Okay.
It's like, okay, you got a 2-point conversion, you got a 2-point conversion, you go back and forth.
Okay.
That gives them, and then everybody gets an opportunity. If they score, you get a chance to score. If they score, you get a chance to score. But obviously, whoever goes first. But it would go first, second, second, first. You know what I mean? I like that idea too. So it's
Oh,
like,
alternating. Okay.
right.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, you got the first one, you didn't get the stopper, you both got stops. Now the team that went and got it or didn't just missed it gets a second shot at it. So that everybody holds hammer at least once if you guys are tying.
Yeah.
So it's not just, hey, you get first, you get second, you get first, you get second, you get first, you get second. Because all you gotta do is hold them and then just get it in there that one time. So
Yeah.
but
See, I'm with Paul here. I was way better at throwing the ball, so I can hit about 60 yards to a receiver.
I can't throw very well.
Yeah,
Like I could I could throw it, but it's a wobbly mess. It's ugly.
I
It's
got you.
disgusting. So, because my hands are actually too big, as funny as that sounds, to
Oh,
throw the
okay.
football. Like I mean, at least I have way too much. I don't know. There's never. I was always good at catching the ball, not throwing. You wouldn't have me
Yeah,
be your quarterback. You know, that's or unless I was going to hike the ball to you. I was actually pretty good at hiking the ball for a while.
I got you. Yeah,
So
if it was ever like just a pickup game or backyard football or whatever, I was generally the quarterback in that scenario. I was an emergency quarterback on a team, but yeah, it, never wanted to be the quarterback. I always enjoyed the hitting people portion more.
no, I can appreciate that. I love putting the hit on somebody than being hit. That's definitely.
Yeah, it's why I changed from being a receiver in high school to every level after that being defensive back.
Yeah, because
Because
once you get a quarterback that puts you across the middle, that didn't really care about you or didn't like you, and he's the one leading you into that hit. Yeah, that
I tore a hamstring because of that exact thing. He led me into a triple coverage situation, and my knee passed the ear hole of my helmet the way I got hit, and I missed a good portion of that season repairing a hamstring issue. And after that point, I was like, defense seems all right.
I'd rather hit than be hit. Thank you
Yep,
very much.
absolutely.
And send me on a blitz one time to go smack that quarterback up a little bit.
100%. 100%.
I want that. I want that one blitz in practice. That I'm going to forget the red shirts on. So
Yeah, I'm just
but
gonna go with the bull mentality. You attack the red. Full blast.
exactly.
Here we go.
I see red. I just go after it like a bull. You know what I mean? It's
Remember what I told you about red? Forget it.
I
Yep,
love that movie. Such a great movie.
it is. It is. That is one I watch probably every year.
Yeah, absolutely. I can watch that movie at any point in the movie. Like if
Oh,
I
of
say
course.
that if I'm scrolling and see it, start it right there. I'm fine. I'm
Yep.
good.
Yep. That is definitely one of those. If you're just rolling through the stations, you're like, oh, there we go. That's what I'm watching.
No, it looks like I just jacked off an elephant.
What are they gonna do? Fire you? Oh man. It's funny because every time I watched Kadarius Toney out on a route, that's the first thing I thought of. I'm like, get that guy some stickum.
Or like, how did I see it? They've shown some of the guys where they can't get the ball off their hands because
Yeah,
there's so much stickum on there. It's like, yeah, well, maybe you can't really tell the ref. You don't throw the flag after they score the touchdown. So,
it's
and
true.
realistically, there's only every once in a while does that actually happen where it's so sticky that he can't get it off. But
Well, I mean, that there's stuff on them gloves. right? Because I mean,
Oh yeah,
the amount of one-handed catches at this point are hilarious. Because I mean,
yeah.
that's not easy to do in a game. Like sometimes it can hit your hand just right, but some of these guys are like barely fingertips and it's grabbing the ball. You're just like, okay, like clearly there's a little more going on there.
Just like the dude
Exactly.
from the Replacements. That is correct.
Exactly.
That is how we even started to talk about that. So, but listen, maybe that's what they should allow. Maybe they should allow the ultimate stick because it's not just for that though. I mean, really, you should have stick 'em if you're a defender. Think
Sure.
about that. Yeah, think about that. Like an offensive or defensive lineman having some stick 'em on his glove, so he sticks his mitt up there and he blocks the ball and it just sticks to his hand.
You know, where the problem would be for like if a defender or I mean DBs for sure would be um, would be in trouble with it all the time because your hand would be so sticky. As soon as you grab like tug the jersey at all, you wouldn't be able to get your hand back off. It'd look like you were holding.
Right.
You'd end up with a whole lot of defensive holding calls.
Well, I guess with every good part, it has its bad part as well. So,
Yep.
because it seems like anymore they don't call any, they call holding way too much, even when it's not even there sometimes. So,
No, and that's what I mean. And so it's like, I don't know if it would work out for defenders. I get for the pass breakup type of thing, but Velcro ball.
yes, yes, a
I
little
like
bit.
it. I like it.
So,
Uh,
but I mean, and I'm trying to think. Like I said, the one rule for hockey, I don't know. Is any other rules that you could possibly think of that would make things better for any sport whatsoever? Because I'm out. I just, like I said,
yeah,
it was
no,
good to
I mean
talk about for a little bit.
that's kind of it. Like the onside kick change would probably be the one that would probably make the most sense. And I know if I remember right, they tried it in the AAF the one year that was around before COVID, right?
Right.
I believe they tried it in that. I don't quite remember. I know they talked about it a lot, so I guess I don't quite remember if they just talked about it or if they did actually try to implement it there. But that one is at least interesting because they've made it almost a 0% chance play.
What was it? A 4th and 15?
Yeah, it was a 4th and 15, and I think you started on your 20 or the 25 or something like that. And if you get it, it would be the same as if you converted a fourth or an onside kick. And then if you don't get it, obviously the ball goes to the other team, similar to missing. So I mean, the only difference is instead of them getting it at midfield, basically, they would get it in field goal range. But yeah.
Yeah, giving a point, giving the 1 point situation. I've thought about this a lot of different ways, and there is a way that a team could get 1 point in a game. As funny as
Yeah.
it sounds,
Yeah.
it
A game can end 6-1.
correct. It never
Yeah.
will happen because at this point you have to have a safety all the way back in the opposite. So that means the team with trying to get the extra point has to run all the way backwards. You can't advance the ball because the moment you have the ball, and if you were to get the ball knocked out of your hands and then knocked out, I guess that would still be considered a safety. If
Well,
it
no.
was
So a safety would be 2 points. You'd have to block the
no,
field
I say
goal.
on an extra point is what I'm getting at. This is going can only happen on an extra point.
Yeah, no,
And
exactly.
that's a
So you'd have to
1 point
block the
safety.
field goal though, because if you did it in a different way, it'd be like a failed 2-point conversion, and you'd get 2 points for that. So you'd have to kick it. You'd have to kick the ball.
No, but even still, if you block the kick and you run it back, it's 2 points. If you block the kick and you're running it back, and in the process, right before it's about to go, before you're about to get that 2 point conversion, they knock it out of your hands and it goes back like what it would be a touchback. It actually becomes a 1 point safety.
No, the safety would still be 2.
No,
So
no, not for extra
way,
points.
the only way that they get the 1 is a blocked field goal or the blocked extra point. Because if you line up to run a play, that's a 2-point conversion. That run back would be 2.
I'm actually putting it up right
It,
now so I could read it to you.
the only way is if it was like you were kicking it and it was a bad snap, and then you got the
Here it
safety.
is. Here it is. Nope.
That would be
Here it
1
is. In
point.
American football, if a team attempting an extra point or 2-point conversion scores what would normally be a safety, that attempting team is awarded 1 point. This is commonly known as the conversion safety or 1-point safety.
Hmm. Yeah, because
So
I thought if you blocked the kick, that would be 1 point because
no,
you
if
were
you block the
attempting
kick
1 point.
and it on the back, that's actually you converted the 2-point conversion. If it's got to be a safety, so that means somebody's running it back and they pull the what was it? He was the guy from the Dallas Cowboys who would have scored a touchdown, but BB knocked the ball out of his hands into the end zone.
So
Oh,
that
okay.
would be a 1-point conversion.
Yeah.
Or 1-point safety, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the only way the game can end is a 6-1 game.
Correct. That's the only way that could occur because everything else would be, it's at 6-1
Is
will
that
never,
even gonna
ever
happen?
happen.
I mean, the
It'll
1-point
never happen.
safety.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's ever
Leon
happened.
Lett, that's who it was. Leon Lett. Yeah,
Oh,
nobody's ever scored the 1-point safety.
Okay.
But for instance, if you get the ball in a regular portion of the game and you are running towards the end zone and somebody knocks it out of your hand, you had possession, you fumble into the end zone, that actually becomes a touchback and it goes to the opposite team on the 20. On an extra point, you're not in the regular plays of the game. So whether it's a 2-point conversion or a 1 point, the clock isn't going, so you're not part of regular play. So if you were to have that occur, so somebody scores a touchdown, they go for the extra point, they block the kick, they're running it back down the field, and somebody knocks it out of their hands and it becomes a touchback, they get the 1 point for that.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
that's like there's just tons of obscure rules, right? Like the free kick field goal is a bizarre rule. Basically, if you fair catch a punt, you have the ability to kick a field goal from that spot unblocked.
Right.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's happened. That has happened once within the last 20 years, I want to say. In the
Yeah, I
21st
want to say it was
century,
about
that
10
play
years
has
ago.
come.
It
Yeah,
does
that play
randomly
has
show
come
up.
into play.
Yeah.
So if
It
you
does
catch
randomly show
the
up. It's
punt
very weird.
and you kick the punt, or if you catch the punt and you kick it and it goes to the field goal posts, that's an unblocked
No.
field goal.
So basically, say you had someone backed up to their end zone and they
Okay.
punt it, and it's a bad punt, right?
Right.
And you get
And
it.
there's no time left on the clock.
Yeah,
I
there's
mean,
no
again,
time
now you're thinking about maybe it's halftime.
Yeah. So you would fair catch that, right? And then you would be able to kick it from that spot, and the defense has to line up very similar to a kickoff where they have to be at least 10 yards off the ball. So they can't try and block the kick. It is 100% a free kick from where you fair caught that punt. But yeah, it doesn't happen very often, but it has happened.
I've never seen that happen. He's not.
Yeah, it's happened a couple of times, but it's
Okay.
it's a weird rule. But yeah, I mean, it does randomly appear.
I'm looking it up. When was the last one? It's 1976. I thought it was
That's
different.
4 years old when that
The last
happened.
successful. That was the last
Okay, I was going to say
successful
last
one.
successful one. I was going to say because it's been done, it just hasn't been made.
There, Panthers took advantage in 2019. He tried a 71-yard field goal and missed.
Yeah, because it's 71 yards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, hold
I
on,
don't
hold
know
on, hold on.
anybody that can kick a 71-yard field goal.
I thought the
That'd be
Pats tried
insane.
it once too.
The free kick gives the kicker the opportunity to take any kind of running start he wants. And it allows a lower trajectory. So it's able to kind of
You can hit from further, yeah.
do that. Yeah, so because that obviously nobody's lined up on there. So that's what it is. It says the Packers missed the opportunity to do it this year.
Oh.
They could have, and they didn't. So interesting.
That is interesting.
All right. So we are going to take our station identification break on the opposite side of this. By the way, we're welcoming Jay into the show. I know he just came in and all of a sudden he's here. But once we come back from our station identification, we're going to bring on Art Seeger. Art Seeger, I'm going to he's a race car driver. I believe it's in the Arco series. He's going to correct me when I'm wrong. But we'll have him on right after these messages. So definitely stay tuned, as you're going to find out more about the Daytona 500 than I was able to give you before this. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, guess any.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Supporting the needs of our veterans. That's the goal of all of us at Team AmVets. Like Mitch, Carlos, and Kevin from our Welcome Home team that brings furniture to our vets.
We are Team AmVets.
Or Linda from our thrift stores who brings you great bargains every day.
I am Team AmVets.
And John, who picks up your thrift store donations that support California veterans programs.
I am Team AmVets.
Visit our website or a Team AmVets thrift store to donate or shop today.
Join the team!
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
And we are back, and we welcome to our panel today Art Seeger. Art is he's with Team ASR. I want to make sure I got that right. And also does he deals with heavy equipment stuff and stuff like that. I'm going to let him introduce himself. Did I get it right? Are you part of the Arco Racing Network? Whatever they call that.
It's ARCA, ARCA, ARCA Series, American Auto Racing Club of America. It's actually owned by NASCAR, but when I first started racing in the ARCA Series, it was their own. They were their own owners before NASCAR bought them about 3 years ago. But it's been going on since the late 50s, just like NASCAR. And the cars are exactly the same as you would have a NASCAR Cup Series car up until NASCAR changed to their Cup Series cars they have now about 2 years ago. So they're still high horsepower, 200-mile-an-hour cars. We race at Daytona, Talladega, Pocono, Dover, all the same tracks you'd see NASCAR at, plus some of the short tracks that are located in the Midwest, tracks like Salem and Winchester and Toledo. They're kind of our short tracks versus, NASCAR short tracks like Bristol and some of the others that are so well known in the NASCAR world.
Gotcha. And you've been doing this for a long time, I assume?
Oh, yeah. I was always a race fan as a young child growing up. I attended my first race in 1968 in actually Trenton, New Jersey. It was a big-time racetrack there. It was at the State Fairgrounds, and I watched the Indianapolis 500 type cars. And that was, at that point, I was 11 years old. And by 2 or 3 years later, I said, this is what I want to do in my life. I want to be a race car driver. It took a long time to get to that point. Some just life gets in the way, and you're growing up, and I didn't actually start driving race cars till I was 29 years old. But when I was 25 years old or 24 years old, I actually worked as a pit crew member for an Indianapolis 500 team. Just pure luck. I was in the right place at the right time, and I helped the team out. They used to run, they called it the Meadowlands Grand Prix for Indy cars. I grew up in North Jersey in West Orange, and I had a ticket to the race. And just by chance, at a mall in New Jersey, Willowbrook Mall, I came upon they had a race car on display, and the guy was with it. And I asked, how could I be involved? And lo and behold, I ended up being involved. And 6 months later, I went to the Pocono race, and I worked with one of the big time race teams, the Craco Car Stereo IndyCar team. Everybody probably knows Michael Andretti. He was one of the drivers on that team. And I ended up on the weekends flying all around the country, helping them as the guy that would help set up the pits. And I was the signboard man, which is the guy that hangs out on the outside of pit road inside the racetrack and holds up the sign for the driver to read, which they no longer have because it's too dangerous, and they have all the radios. We had radios back then too, but they weren't as reliable. So I was the signboard man. And then a few years later, I bought my first race car, and it was just for a local, Friday night, Saturday night type racing track. But the first race I was ever in, I started last, and I won on a last lap pass. And just from there, a few years later, worked my way up the ladder, and my first big time race live on ESPN was at Atlanta Motor Speedway, one of those 200-mile-an-hour tracks. And I was very competitive. I was in the top 5 with only a few laps to go. And I was one of the fastest cars on the track. Could I have won that one? Yeah, I think so. But we had a tire blowout, and that's racing, I think I ended up 15th. But that's kind of racing, if you watch it, you see how there's, you need to be very good to be competitive, but then something could happen, beyond your control. Kind of like an interception at the Super Bowl on the 2-yard line with 18 seconds to go, and because I'm a Seahawk fan, that's how I met Jamie.
And I was just going to say that obviously Bo up in the other corner is also a Seahawks fan, so he's he doesn't take fondly to that joke when I talk about how Skittles was making fun of him.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
it was a great play. Like I can't be mad at it. It was a great play. Butler, broke on the ball. What do you do?
Yeah, what do you do? I mean, it wasn't I don't think it was a bad call. I just think that defended or shielded the ball a little bit, but he's a wide receiver and not really used to making those, 1 yard catch a touchdown play. That's just me talking. I played tight end in semi-pro football and tried out for a lot of pro teams, never made it though. But I did try out for Denver and the Houston Oilers and the Jets and the Patriots. I went to training camp and all that. I just never made it. But that it kind of led me to work harder at racing because that was my other goal in life.
Oh, wow. It's interesting. You guys have a lot more in common than you guys think.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
But Bo, I'm gonna so obviously you're part of this, and when I spoke to you today, Art, you were talking about how you weren't able to kind of get the things together to be able to go down to Daytona this week. And my question for you is, obviously you're a self-funded team. What goes into being able to really handle a team for racing cars at your level? It's I got to imagine it takes a tremendous amount of money along with access and things like that. Tell us a little bit about what goes into that.
Well, I drive for different race teams. I haven't had to own my own race team in quite a few years, but I drive for different ARCA Series teams. I've driven in the NASCAR Bush series, Bush North series. I know, there's a lot of politics involved. You have to kind of know everybody all the way up to the top. Like I'm good friends with, all the NASCAR people, Roger Penske, all these, Richard Childress, who's the owner of a big time team. I know a lot of the crew guys, but it's just, you got to find, as a driver, you got to find opportunity. And in order to find opportunity, that's only half the battle. You need to find some funding too. As good a driver as you may be, you cannot nobody just puts you in the race car. You have to contribute financially to the cost of the racing and work your way up the ladder to prove that, you can do it at that level. But a lot of race teams, they're like, sure, you can drive our car. How much money you have? And it's a tough way. It's just different than other sports. I always liken it to, when I talk to football guys, maybe Joe Montana would have had a chance if he couldn't fly himself around the country, buy his own uniform, buy his own hotel room. Otherwise, to contribute everything he could to pay for himself to be the quarterback of the 49ers. That's kind of how racing is. I don't like it. Nobody likes it, but it's just the way it's always been.
Who is your favorite race car driver all time?
All time, I'd have to say Dale Earnhardt.
Yes.
Dale Earnhardt Sr. Him and I were not like good friends, but I got to know him. I got to work with him because of my connection with friendship with Richard Childress, who has offered me rides in his car, but again, it's how much money you got to bring me. But that's just the way it is, there's nothing, just the way it is, I'm
a big fan of Earnhardt. I just like the way he drove. I like the guy I like his fierce competitive nature. Everything about the man, I really, really admired.
Sure. When I was younger, AJ Foyt was my guy, back when I first started watching racing. Because AJ could drive, Indy cars, stock cars, anything there is, and I'm a fan of all types of racing, whether it's Formula One, IndyCar, drag racing, NASCAR, no matter what. Some people only like certain types of racing. The sports cars, they just had the 24 Hours of Daytona a few weeks ago. The 24-hour race for the sports cars. I watched almost the whole thing,
Wow. That's a lot of watching cars go around in circles.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I make fun of it a little bit because, like I said, it's not something that I have been really accustomed to. So, but like I said, when I went to Dover Motor Speedway to go watch a race, because I got lucky because I happened on a Monday because it got rained out on that Sunday, it was interesting to watch. You know what I mean? You feel the energy coming from those vehicles when they're going around in circles. So, thank God I was in a suite because it's really loud.
Yeah. Speaking of Dover, that's my next plan is to race that weekend in Dover. I think it's in May. Again, we need funding. But you asked about the cost of that. It's anywhere, depending on the track and how long the race is, it's anywhere from $30,000 to $100,000 a race in the ARCA series, very similar to the NASCAR Truck Series. The Cup Series, you're looking at, $150,000, $200,000 for the weekend.
Damn.
Yeah, that's where you have the budget. Now, if you go down south and you look at some of the race team shops, it's not like somebody's garage. It's a huge building with 20, 30 cars inside, and there's a video online that shows Rick Hendrick's shop. It's shot by a drone, and it's somebody. If somebody wanted to Google it, Google Rick Hendrick race shop tour by drone. It's a multi-million-dollar operation. That's how it has evolved. From just fixing a car in your backyard.
So it sounds like, from what I understand, what you're saying is these drivers basically are renting these cars that they're driving from these.
Not everybody. No, not all of them. When you get to the top level, there's contracts. You get so much per race. You get incentive bonuses. But until you get to either the top level of NASCAR or IndyCar or Formula One, you're basically got to find the funding to get yourself in the car. And even some of them, maybe half the field in IndyCar is kind of buying their way in. Maybe a third of the field, or maybe a little more in that way in the NASCAR Cup Series.
Wow.
You see a lot of these teams that are changing different drivers every couple of races. That's because, somebody else is coming up with the money, so they change drivers. Like I said, it's not fair. If you prove you can drive the race car, that's great, but it's only half the battle.
No, it's an expensive sport. There's no doubt.
Oh, sure.
So,
but look at the rewards if you make it.
Oh, for sure, absolutely.
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, what kind of money is in it if you were to win? Like, if you're going to, and I'm going to do it on a very simple number. Like, say, because you said 30 to 100, I'm going to say it costs $50,000 to race at Dover. We'll say it's going to cost 50 grand, and if you have to get in the top 10, top 5, do you need to lead one lap?
You get money from first. Yeah, you get money from first to last place, but none of the ARCA races, none of the NASCAR Truck Series or Xfinity races really. It actually costs you to go racing. That's why you need all those other marketing partners on the car. Why you see all those other names on the car. Because that's not how you make your money. That's how you fund your racing team through those marketing partner relationships. Like if you win the Daytona 500, I don't know what the purse is. Maybe it's $3 million to win. That's fantastic, but it probably costs $20 million a year to run that race series, all the races. So it's without it's just so much money involved. You can never win back what it costs.
Wow. The winner of the 2024 Daytona 500 gets $2.5 million. That's the winner.
Does he? Yeah. Okay. See, NASCAR stopped publishing. Okay. NASCAR stopped publishing winnings a few years ago. Why? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know why. I really don't know why they stopped publishing how much each car wins, depending on where you finish.
Probably
but you do get paid all the way to last place.
Yeah.
Well,
but I would think they have. I'm sorry.
Hey, we talked about hockey and another topic that was grossly underpaid for their profession, and now I'm listening to you talk about NASCAR and what it takes to make money at NASCAR, from kind of what you're saying, 20 million versus 3, and all the you never get your money back. To me, that sounds like it's grossly underpaid.
Yes, I would have to say you are correct, but it's such a passion. It's such a passion and a lifestyle. I mean, I've been doing it as a part-time racer for 39, 49, 59. 36 years. I'm 66 years old, and it's such a passion. You don't want to stop. Now you could say, a 66-year-old guy's going to go race. Yeah, you could do that if you're in good shape, and you can do that. Now, will I race in the Cup Series anymore? I don't know. Will I race in the ARCA Series, the Truck Series, maybe Xfinity? Yeah, because of all my relationships with all those people. But it's a tough business. And just like any of the sports. And I'm a big sports fan. I have a passion for hockey. I played goalie up until I was 52 years old, when I ended up with a blood infection from cutting my shin on a piece of scrap metal in a scrapyard. Took me 10 years to recover from that. I miss playing hockey goalie for sure. I love football. I tried to play pro football. I haven't, thrown a football in 20 years though. So I understand the drive, that everybody has for their sport. I'm just, I love hockey. I love football. I love car racing. I even like lacrosse. I watch those Wings, the Philadelphia Wings games on TV. I played lacrosse goalie a little bit when I was older. Love that too.
Yeah, I played lacrosse goalie a few minutes ago. So
where?
For the Wings.
When?
I didn't do so well. I
when he
put on
said that,
the
he
pads.
literally took the balls to
Yeah.
the chest. He wasn't catching them.
Yeah, no, he was in there as a blocker. Is really
Is
all
that
it was.
on tape? Can I see that?
Yep, yes,
Can
you
I?
can. I actually have
Okay,
the whole
good.
video for you.
That'd be great. And how could you get me
Art,
involved with that? Could you get
Art,
me involved with that? I'd like to do that. You just
gotta
did
do
like a
it
practice session with him, right?
It is widely known, Art, that Pags and Bo have thought about racing me at Soapbox Derby, and I told them they didn't have enough weight to hang with me.
Jamie mentioned that somebody raced cars. Was that you?
What's that?
I was Bo.
Jamie
The one
mentioned
above,
that somebody
the one next to
raced
Yeah.
cars. Yeah, who was that?
So I raced here in the Pacific Northwest. I did the Hornet series. That's why I said I didn't make it very far. I couldn't afford the upper level of racing. And then I was getting ready to race in the SCCA, the ITA series. Just couldn't find enough funding to.
There you go.
So we still have the car and everything.
Yeah?
It's just finding the sponsors to actually pay for every weekend of racing is no joke, right? Like it.
Yeah.
I mean, the gas alone's got to kill you. The gas, the tires.
It's not. Honestly, it's not that. It's the combination of all the things, right? Because you gotta get the car there. You gotta do all of your prep. You got to pay to get into the race. All of your qualifying track days. I mean, fine tuning of the car, fixing things that inevitably break because the higher the horsepower, the more shit breaks. It just, there's a lot that goes into it. Fuel alone, if that was the expense, you wouldn't care. It's everything is just a nonstop bleed of your wallet, which is why you need sponsors.
Right. Now, I was lucky when I was climbing the ladder. I worked as a salesman on the road, selling first steel to machine shops, and then a salesman selling. I worked for a Caterpillar dealership, and then another company that specialized in undercarriage, which is the steel chains and rollers and sprockets for bulldozers and excavators. So I was always on the road, and I would work half a day for them and half a day for me trying to find sponsors. As long as I met my numbers, nobody complained, and it's if I wasn't a salesman on the road, if I had to go and punch a clock every day or something like that, or I didn't have my own business or worked for my family's business that knew how hard I wanted the deal, I probably never could have gotten out of, street stocks.
Sure.
Because you need that time. You need to be able to pick up and go. I actually, Caterpillar gave me an ultimatum. I had just signed a deal with Nestle's to sponsor me in my first big time race at Atlanta. And I went to them after the race was over, and I flew back to New Jersey, and I said, Nestle's is offering me a deal, 10 race deal, $250,000 to run 10 races next year in the ARCA series. And they said to me, well, either you go to work for that, you get your deal, go racing, or work for us. You can't do both. So I had to basically quit my job to go chase racing, and my wife was not very pleased with that. We're still married though, I'm married since 78, still married. It's
Congratulations on that, by the way. That's good. That's a good achievement. That's a long race right there. Let me tell you.
Right there. Yes. And it's probably more expensive than the race car team. Not that my wife is very frugal, good thing. But over the years, you spend a lot of money being married.
No doubt.
Go figure.
For sure.
Yep.
So what could somebody like, all right, I've never been to Daytona 500. Like, I've been down to Daytona Beach because I was stationed in Orlando, and that would be the closest beach to the ocean when I was stationed down there. But if I was to, being somebody who's never been there before, what would I expect going down to Daytona, going to the Daytona 500 race?
For the races, for the actual speed weeks and all that? First of all, you would, like you said, you wouldn't know what to expect. Most people don't. And then, walk in and you see just how big the place is. I know it's a 2.5 mile circle, but the grandstands are huge. It's not like going to,
Like a football game?
yeah, I want to say Veteran Stadium, but I'm dating myself for the Eagles. What do they call it now?
Lincoln
Or Franklin
Financial.
Field. Yeah, or it's just there's enough seating for 200 some thousand people, and the front row grandstands are, I couldn't tell you how high they are, but it's, I don't know, 8 stories high, and it's the full length of a mile long. And then you just see all the people and how many people are there. And then when you see the cars run, it's surreal because you'll see, 40 cars, 30 cars, 20 cars, 200 miles an hour, just inches apart from each other, side by side. And then if a wreck happens, it's just like you can't believe what you're seeing. It's surreal. And it's not because I'm a fan of it. Anybody that sees it, they just can't believe it. They just can't believe what they're seeing. Their eyes are seeing. But then over time, you get used to it, and you really have to wear a head. They rent, or you have to have, really, it's like a headset that you listen to the radio broadcast of the race, so you really know what's going on. It's kind of, I kind of liken it to people that watch hockey on TV. They don't know what's going on. They don't understand what icing is. They don't understand offsides. And people don't understand racing. They see cars going around in a circle. Cars come down pit road. How did that guy pass this guy? They don't understand. How did the guy on the track, this car stayed out on the track, so how did he get the lead? It's something that you really either have to know about or learn. And the best way to learn is wear that headset and listen to the radio broadcast, because it clears, it lets you understand what you're listening to. And it's just a great time. Now they have more fan-friendly things. Like they have this huge, I think it's got like 5 bars with giant TV screens in the infield, right behind pit road. They have a walkway that you could look down into the garage from up above in the grand, it's just, they've learned to do these things, to get people more involved with the sport, up close. And of course, race drivers, we always are willing to sign autographs for hours, and not like other sports where they shield them off into a back room with a curtain, and they charge whatever they charge to get an autograph. I don't really agree with that, because they're already making millions of dollars, and they're fans of that. The fan is a fan of that guy. Why do you want to charge that person $100 or $50 or whatever they charge for those autographs? It's just the way racing is a little different, more fan friendly, I would say.
So let me ask you this: get your opinion on how racing has changed, especially in the NASCAR level, right? Because of the rule changes, implementing the playoffs, and I'm not a big fan of when that all came together. I like watching the most consistent racer win, not a guy that was good at the last 5 tracks. So being involved in racing at that level, what did you think of that? Or the fact that, Bristol is a stage race now instead of just being
Yeah, I it's become so expensive that they had to find a way to make the broadcast, let's say, more interesting. And I think that stage racing thing, I don't like it at all. You want to award points, don't just say a stage, but don't stop and have commercial breaks, because that's what I think all that's about, is just stopping so we could put in more commercials. There's already enough commercials, but they needed to have set commercial time. And as far as I don't like the stages. As far as when they changed the format to, you have to win a race to get in. And then at the end of the year, all those guys advance, everybody else is out. And then they win again. They keep going, or the guy with the most points until the end. I don't. I don't. Either way, is fine with me. I realize the traditional guy only wants it the other way, but it's just I find it's okay. I just don't like all these stoppages. Like even when there is a stage break or a caution, it takes maybe an extra 5 or 8 laps to line everybody up because they have to go review the tape and see where everybody was at the point of caution. And, it's just, that's not how it's kind of how it was, but they don't, it's different now where they double check, triple check themselves. And then it just extends the caution periods and everybody wants to go to sleep or change the channel, I should say. I brought a friend of mine that was not a race fan at all to Dover, not for the Cup race, for the ARCA race a few years ago. And as soon as he would start getting into it, they would stop for whatever reason. And it would take him forever to line back up. And he was like, okay, when is this going to be over? But while it was going on, he was interested and he liked it. He's not a race fan, and it didn't make him one. But everybody's different. I when I went to my first race in 1968, it just, that was it for me. And there's a lot of people that they call it the racing bug bites you, and it never lets go. And it did for me. And a lot of people that are passionate about racing, whether you're a fan or a driver or a team owner or a crew member at any level, even the weekly guys that race at the short tracks throughout the country, or the SCCA guys like you mentioned, it becomes your lifestyle.
Art, I'm really surprised, with the size of the state of Texas and the population of all the cities. I'm surprised we got Dallas Motor Speedway. I know they have that, but they really don't have a lot in terms of NASCAR coming down to Texas and getting all the people down here involved in it. Do you ever see down the road? Do you think that NASCAR will eventually do something down in Texas and actually make a park or something to get that level of it involved?
Yeah, that's in Fort Worth, right? It's Texas Motor Speedway. Yeah. And then there used to be one called Texas World Speedway. That shut down years ago.
Yeah.
And then they used it as like club racing and things like that. And maybe about 3 or 4 years ago, they just bulldozed it. Because I don't know. I don't know if are there a lot of big race fans in Texas right now, would you say? Or they're more into football?
I would say that there's the potential for sure. And that's why I've never wondered why they've never come down this direction.
Yeah. Now, they did Indy cars in Houston, on the streets of Houston a few years ago. You remember that?
I remember that. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And I don't know what the attendance was and how that worked, but they only did it for 1 year, I think.
Right.
They only did it 1 year. There's lots of markets out there. I don't know what type of weekly racing do they have in Texas? Do they have weekly short tracks? A lot of them, or just a few? It's such a big state that it's
many at all. I really don't. I know you got, every time I talk to my friends with the friends that I do racing and like racing, they always talk about Texas Motor Speedway. That's really the only place they ever talk about. I never hear anything else. And there's a lot of damn land that they could put a track out here, or several tracks out here, that people from like Louisiana, Oklahoma, Arkansas, a whole that could come and actually grow that sport. I guess that's kind of where I'm going, is how is NASCAR going to grow that sport to get more people involved?
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't know how many people. It's a good question, but I don't know if I can answer it, because I don't know the whole state of Texas and what kind of race fan base there is now.
Yeah, just like Dallas Cowboys fans, they don't show up when it matters. So.
You saying the fans or the team when it really matters? Which one is it?
Well, I mean the team. The fans jump on the bandwagon all the time.
Yeah.
So the Pax is still just butthurt that his team got kicked out of the playoffs in the first round. He still hasn't gotten up. You can tell it's fresh. It's okay.
Oh, I was happy. You know what? It made my day a lot better when the Cowboys were out first.
I'm sure it did.
Anyways,
misery loves company.
that being said, currently, who would be the your favorite driver at the moment? Like, who is the one that you follow
Well,
most, or
I would have to say me, but I'm not driving right now. Who is my favorite driver at the moment? I don't know. To me, they're like my kids, you know, they're so much younger. I don't know. I could tell you that like Kyle Larson, he's got all the ability in the world. You know, he's going to do Indy 500 and the NASCAR race in Charlotte the same day. I think he's got a shot to win at least the one in Charlotte. I don't know about Indy because as good as he is, you know, that's a special. Indianapolis is a different experience for him. Kyle Larson,
and that's a
you know, I
Formula
like
One, right?
Penske. No, but no, Indy 500 is
Indy, but they're
Indy car.
They're that style of
Yeah.
car.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as similar car to Formula One. You know, I told you, I mentioned, you know, I know Roger Penske really well. So anytime a Penske car is winning, I'm happy. You know, they won the 24 Hours of Daytona. You know, the IndyCar championship last year, Cup championship last year with Ryan Blaney. But to me, as far as drivers now, I like to see the guys that have been in it for a while win or an underdog win. You know, I have no real favorite drivers.
Well, what is your ceiling for a guy like Bubba Wallace, who's been in and out of headlines here racing? Like, how good of a race car driver is Bubba Wallace, in your opinion?
In my opinion, he seems to do well, and then he makes mistakes. He's got to learn to correct his mistakes. Whether he overdrives, you know, he's just you know, he's got a lot to learn. That's just all I'm going to say about him. Now, he does get a lot of press. He does get a lot of press, which is, you know, that's what you've got to do. You got to create press to attract the sponsors, to attract the marketing partners, so you could stay in the game. You know, that's that. Now, I think he is a good race car driver because he did do well in the Truck Series. He did do well in you know, in cars that he's raced. He doesn't win like 80% of the races like Kyle Larson does, you know. Right. But you know, a lot of it is there's probably some real good race car drivers out there in middle of the pack cars because that's the funding they could come up with, you know, and until they get to the next, not next to the next level, but in the series, the next step up, you know, you're driving for Hendrick or Penske or Roush or Roush, RFK Racing. Now they call it because Brad Keselowski. Yeah, or Childress. You know, maybe you're driving for one of the teams that are not well funded. But you know, years ago, if you were a guy that took a 20th place car and made it finish 8th, you'd get those opportunities to move up, and it still happens.
For sure.
Question from one of our listeners asks your favorite memory of Dale Earnhardt Sr.
I guess when he won the Daytona 500 on a personal one-on-one, I had a sponsor, a marketing partner that was an electronics wizard, and he invented a charging station for the race cars that acted as the pit cart. So I went to Richard and I asked him if we could, if he was interested in using this. And I was getting the components of that pit cart, all the electronic components were a sponsor of mine. And I was trying to get them into the Cup Series where I would be a Cup driver, drive for Junie Donlevy, who's passed away, but he was a guy known for giving young guys a start or guys a chance because he wasn't, you know, he worked on a budget that he was still competitive though. So anyhow, Richard agreed, and I went to go see Dale, and he says, we'll hook it up to Dale's car, and if he says okay. So I went to go talk to Dale, and he was okay with it, and we had a nice conversation. And that was my first meeting with him, and he's just a regular guy, and wanted to see me succeed too. So, but my favorite memory of all is when he won the Daytona 500.
Yeah, watching all those pit crews come line up as he came in was awesome.
Awesome. Yeah.
It's, that's I mean, there's got to be tons of memories like that. My question is, what was was there one wreck that stands out amongst them all? If you've raced for a number of years, I got to imagine you've had more than your fair share of wrecks.
No,
Is there one?
I very rarely have crashed. I've won more races than I've crashed. But
well, that's good.
But I can tell you this. I was driving for a guy at a track called Salem Speedway, which is like Bristol Motor Speedway, which is that high bank, real fast thing where you can't see around the corner. But Salem is actually banked higher than Bristol, and it's very rough asphalt track. And I was passing a guy, let's say from 6th to 5th place, and a car came out of the infield. Don't ask me how. I don't know why he drove through the infield, and he hit me in the side door, and it got me sideways. So the car, I didn't hit anything, but I ended up sideways with my driver's side door facing the oncoming traffic between turns 3 and 4. And as the cars were coming at me, and they were in double file at full speed at 160 miles an hour, I looked out of through my window net, and I said, this could be it. And it was the only time I've ever driven a race car where I felt like I was, I guess I could say scared, because I didn't know what was going to happen. And each one of those cars either went low or high and missed me. Nobody, and there probably was 15, 20 cars went by me at 140 miles an hour, either in front of me, in front of my nose, or through behind my rear spoiler. And no one hit me. I was like, if they hit me square in the door, this could be really bad. But they all missed me. I've never really crashed big time where the car's upside down and flipping. That never happened.
Me, I'd be running across the railroad track like Will Ferrell. I'm on fire! I'm on fire! With a little headset on. That'd be like trying to get the infield.
I love watching that movie every time it's on. I love it. Because my wife doesn't like it, because she goes, it just makes fun of race car drivers and people from the South and all that stuff. And I'm like, because to me it's just funny. It's a comedy,
Yeah.
It's a comedy.
I mean, it's directly making fun of Days of Thunder.
Yeah. And Days of Thunder, when it first came out, I thought I liked it, but the more I watch it, the more hokey it becomes.
Yeah. No, it's funny. They did an interview with Richard Petty about that movie when it came out, Days of Thunder. And they were like, oh, is this like an accurate depiction? And he's like, the only thing they got right was they put numbers on the car.
There's some true stories in that movie, that they embellished to make it more dramatic than it really was.
Sure.
But but the racing scenes and all that, that's all Hollywood.
Yeah. So there's nobody yelling, just give me the high gear. That doesn't ever happen.
Yeah.
Guess you get the.
I always like when in that most racing movies, they're on the track going as fast as they possibly can, and then they'll upshift and step on the gas harder. You're already doing that, it's just, but they just want to have that dramatic look to it, you know?
I always love that because it's just like, okay, at first it's like a 10 gear box at that point because they're shifting nonstop.
Exactly.
And they always have them downshift when they're going as fast as they could, which would just grenade the engine and end your day. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, not only would you spin, right, because you'd lose momentum, but you'd pop the motor immediately.
Yeah. Yes, you would.
I always wonder when they crash these cars, like these these NASCAR things when they crash. I was wondering, like, how much money does that like cost them to put that car back together?
It all depends. It depends on what's broken. You can buy a car from some other race team for, without an engine. They call it a rolling chassis, for probably $30,000. With an engine, it's probably, I'm guessing at around $50,000 for another engine. So you're looking at, $80,000 to $100,000 for a car, a NASCAR car. Indy cars and other cars cost more than that. But a NASCAR stock car is probably in the $80,000 to $100,000 range. Depending on what you do, if you totally wreck it, you throw it away, but you keep the parts that are still salvageable, like brake rotors and, the seat, maybe, things like that. But $5,000-$10,000 for a car that is fixable is probably average repair costs.
What one thing that is a bummer about lower level racing is a lot of those guys they watch a lot of it and they like the wrecks, so they almost go seeking wrecks at low end racing, which sucks if you are funding yourself and you already can't afford it, because you end up having to put your car back together a lot more than you would otherwise like to do. It's almost like you're out there trying to create a big one.
Please don't hit me. You can put a bumper sticker on the back of that thing that says, "I can't afford a wreck. Please leave me alone."
I mean, some of those guys go out looking for contact.
Wow, that's crazy. Because bumping is raising,
well,
though.
Yeah,
that's different. Like leaning on a car and like rubbing people, that's different.
What
Like,
is that? I didn't bump you.
literally
I
be out there to
rubbed
wreck
you. Rubbed him is racing.
So
that's true. That's true in that movie. That's one of the true things. Rubbing is racing.
It is. It is.
Yep. You said you didn't like Earnhardt's driving style, but to me, he was very aggressive. But if you did that to him, he would save the car and not wreck it.
Yep.
If it was another guy that he's doing it to, I don't think he did anything that he couldn't save himself. He just didn't realize not everybody could control the car like he could control the car at that speed. And I understand why people don't like him. They thought he was a dirty driver. And I understand why they say that,
I mean, he'd get you to,
because he took no prisoners. You're in my way 3 laps, I'm moving you.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is he'd move you. It's not like he was trying to wreck you, right? Like he'd just unsettle the back end so he could get by. Like I don't have a problem with that. I mean, that's not bad racing. Now, if you dump somebody, sure, like that's a problem. But you never really saw him out there hooking someone, right? Like he'd get into that rear bumper. He'd unsettle the car so he could get by. Obviously he had some moments with Terry Labonte where he spins him and stuff like that. But I mean, some of those are.
Terry did that to him first.
Exactly.
If you look at those times where he dumped Terry at Bristol,
absolutely.
Right? Terry roughed him up the lap previous.
Exactly. Yeah.
So he was just repaying the favor.
Now,
you might say.
The guy that was always fun to watch because you just never knew what you were going to get, because he was a hothead, was Ken Schrader, right? Like you never knew what he was bringing to the track that day, but he was a guy that would jump out of his car and box with you if it wasn't going right.
Me and Bo and Pags, we were all talking a little bit of what racing we knew. Bo obviously was clearly the guy that knew the most. And I asked a question, and Bo said it doesn't happen. But I'm going to ask you, because you clearly have raced a lot. And have you ever been in a race and you said, "Oh my God, I've got to take the worst piss ever"? Like, does that ever happen to you and you just got to get out of the car?
No, I think I remember I would always make sure I went to the men's room before the race started. And I think that you sweat so much during the actual race that I know sweat is in urine, but I think that your body just lets all the moisture out of your body while you're racing. Because I've never had that issue, Never had that. I mean, races last 3-4 hours, right? But I've never had that issue. But I think if you're sweating, a lot of people don't realize how strenuous and cardio racing is. Right. It's not like just driving down the street. I would say go to like a go-kart track, like a New Jersey Motorsports Park, or your local, not your local kiddie ride go-kart track, but go to a go-kart track where they'll let you go 10, 15 laps for $40 or whatever it is, and you, by the time you get done, you won't be able to raise your arms, and you'll be out of breath because it's, if you're going all out, if you go as hard, people don't realize how what the G forces and the cardio it takes for a sustained amount of time to do that, and in NASCAR, it'll be 120 to 140, 50 degrees inside the car. And you've got on the suit, the helmet, the underwear, no ventilation. That's one of the reasons why the aerodynamics, you can go so fast because there's nothing, the ventilation is not really in the car.
Right. So that brings me to the second question. Because it is so hot, like we all know, because I know those suits are crazy, plus the heat from the engine and whatnot. Yep. How often are you taking fluids in throughout the race?
Well, when you come in, well, I would say, there's a drink bottle. You have a drink bottle in the car with a tube like a straw. Okay. I don't know. You do it during caution periods, because in between the caution periods, you wouldn't even think to drink. It's not even across your mind, right. Because you're just so focused on what the car feels like, and not every race is like Daytona where you're inches apart for everybody at 200 miles an hour. You can go to Pocono and it's a big, long straightaway and you have to slow down for the tunnel turn where, you'll go from 165, 70 down to 100 and then back up to speed and into the next turn. And you might be 4, 5, 6 seconds to the next car in front of you and the car behind you. So, but it's still, you've got to focus on the corner and how to get in, out and out of the apex and not scrub off speed, get your optimum corner. And you can't be distracted because if you're distracted, you're going to be slower.
Right.
Yeah. So you wouldn't even think about, I don't think about having a drink. I wait for the caution period.
And
but I've lost, I can tell you this, on a hot day, I've lost like 12 pounds from the start to the end of the race.
Right.
I've lost like 12 pounds of fluid.
Because you're losing so much, like you said, because you're losing so much fluid, what is the effect of that on your body? Because you're losing so much.
Well, I would say when you get out of the car, you're exhausted. And you need to drink. You need to get that fluid back in you, but once the race is over,
that's why they give you a bottle of milk afterwards.
Yeah, after Indianapolis. Yeah. Yeah, but that's
real quick because we're getting ready to close up here because we're at the top of the hour. I have your stuff down here listed. Tell us where anybody could find you, and if they want to, maybe talk about even sponsorship in your
Well, we have my website for the racing team is www.teamasr.com, which stands for Art Seeker Racing. On there, you'll find different pictures and different things, and if there is a marketing partner out there that would be interested in working with us, there's a marketing partners page where it kind of lists the highlights of what you get for the program. As far as my heavy equipment parts business, I sell bulldozer parts and truck engine, transmission, final drives, and things like that for the trucking industry or the heavy equipment industry. That is www.pxeparts.com. My company name is Phoenix Equipment Parts, and I've had that business 20 some years. I started it. I was working for a company traveling 17 states as their salesman. They sold their business to another company. So in order for me to keep racing, I started my own, which has been running now for 24 years.
Nice. There you go.
Yep.
Well, I really do appreciate you coming on with us today.
Well, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, like I said, this was, when I don't know something about something, I bring on the people that I know. So, and like I said, I met Art through a mutual friend of ours, a mutual super fan. He's a Seahawks super fan, and he brought him out to the game one day, and so he got to deal with me as the Philly sports guy full effect.
And we did a nice live video from the parking lot that day.
Pags, are you saying
we did.
Seahawks or seagulls? Because every time I keep hearing seagulls.
Yeah, well,
or
they
chickens,
were. I tell you what, until the Eagles beat them, I can't really say much because Eagles seem to be losing to the Sea Chickens. I call them Sea Chickens.
That's it, Sea Chickens.
Matter.
I knew that was coming.
Yep, of course.
Yeah. I've been a Seahawk fan since the Beastquake run.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm always a fan of the underdog, and they were an underdog that day to the previous year's New Orleans Saints.
Absolutely.
And I think their record was 7-9, and nobody gave them a chance to even show up at that game in Seattle. Yep. But they beat them, and then they went on their run after that.
So, but yes. Well, Art, again, thank you very much for coming on, and we will make sure to we'll probably have you come back on when we start having more questions about as we get closer to the end on how they work the points and stuff like that for this
Sure.
for the NASCAR races.
Yep. And if you want to go to Dover, you just let me know, and we'll hook you up for seats and grandstand seats and garage passes, the whole bit.
Amazing.
Dover Motor Speedway follows me, so I would actually like to do that. So let's automatically figure on that because I think that a lot of great content could come from that.
That's right.
When is Dover this year?
I don't have the schedule in front of me, but I think it's the third week of May. I believe you'd have to check the schedule. The third weekend in May.
Up right now, and
okay.
That's Dover. Dover's in Maryland, correct? That's Dover, Maryland.
Dover, Delaware.
Yes, it's the Monster Mile. Monster Mile.
Okay.
Yeah, pull it up. Let me know. I'm trying to put sponsorship together for that,
Nationals, right? June 7th through the 9th.
No.
Is that it? Or the NASCAR
go to
A-Game
NASCAR
Xfinity Series?
Yeah.
That's April 27th. And then the World 400 is April 28th.
All right, so it's April this year.
They moved that
draft. Okay, and where are you going to be? You're going to be at the draft?
Be in Detroit for the NFL draft.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm going to try and be at the draft.
So, but we'll figure it out. We will figure it out. Yeah. Absolutely. So, but,
okay.
All right. Again, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking your time out today.
All right. Thanks, guys. And again, go to teamasr.com if you want to know more about the race team. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.
Take care, guys.
All right. Have a great one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I would have bought hot dogs.
And there we have it. More NASCAR than you could possibly imagine. I tell you, only on Coast to Coast can you get that type of stuff. For the millions of people that were watching today, it really was an awesome show.
Right.
I really, it's like I love hearing this stuff. Like it's all great to me. Like everybody's got stories to tell.
Can I just say, I think on a scale of 1 to 10, I think my question about pee and how often and drinking was probably the best information we got out of the whole damn thing. I put that out there.
Yeah, he said the same exact thing Bo did, that nobody has to pee when you're in the car.
Yeah.
So.
I just wanted to hear him say it. Bo, look, Bo, you're a superhuman. I'm pretty sure you don't pee at all. I think you're a bot. I want to hear Art say it because I know Art's been since 1960.
All right. We're already past our time now. So everybody, thank you so much for hanging with us today. And we will be back on Monday again at the same bad time, same bad channel. Look for me on I'm going to be at the Stadium Series. You know that I'm going to be up there full effect as the Philly Sports Guy Nemo edition. So if you find Nemo at this hockey game, that's because that's me. So everybody, thank you so much. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.